Hello, gonna do some owning. So, as said before, we've got this up to 2000. I need to give it a quick check because we've had some tape on it. I've never really damaged the edge by doing my little sellotape sort of trick to protect it while I'm doing the scales, but we will have a little look before we proceed because we might have to drop down a stone or whatever. Couldn't feel anything while cutting that. As said before as well, I've put a bit of this tape on before and it is perfectly hitting the apex, which is not normal for a wedge, and certainly not normal for a wedge of this size. So we just quite literally run a couple of laps just in case there's a bit of gum or anything from the sellotape. I have tried to take it off with IPA. Is it IPA? 99% alcohol. I always say the 5000 is where you really get to see your bevel, because you've started polishing. What's going on over here? Find a bit of focus on there. So that's a 2000 head. You can see all the little serrations. Excuse me. The angle changes on especially big razors as you go along. Right, there's a little bit of something going on there, but that could be water. So wiped it off with my finger. Let's have another little look. Yeah. I can definitely see bits of the apex have kind of rolled or something similar to that. There's a tiny bit of damage. So purely for saving time's sake, we're just going to get a few laps. Whoever made this razor, it was definitely one of the best razor makers of his time. Because to make a razor this big and to get it so perfect in terms of how it runs laps is just it must be hard. we might get disturbed by the wife. If so, I'll just abort it and we'll start again. I'll join them together. Alright, let's have another little look towards the end. Oh yeah, there's a couple of little tiny nicks. So whatever that little wobbly bit looks like, it's now gone, but we've got a tiny, you could get them out on a 5000, but you'd just be there longer, so I won't keep filming it just because who wants to keep saying the same thing. Yeah, they're smaller, but they're still there. If you didn't see it, this was the same razor that I rescaled. In my last video. It turned out, well, nearly perfect I guess. My horn scales could get a bit more shinier. And the peel of the collars on the bottom, on the wedge end, the peeling's nearly invisible. And we're not too far off of it, off the pivot end. It's harder to do them on the pivot end. When I had these CNC'd, this is not me moaning either, because it must be quite a difficult thing even though they're a CNC company. They put like a bit more of a flat spot on the middle size ones on the top, so if I ever get any more made I've got to get them just to change that slightly. It's my fault in a way. I should have noticed it when they did the, what's it called? Sort of like the prototype, but it's called something. When they make a few of them and get you back in. Super happy with them though. They said the hardest ones to make were the little tiny sort of, well, Solingen collars some people call them, but just your normal standard size collars that are on most razors. They said they probably undercharged me them ones because they were so finicky and small, and they were getting quite a lot of sort of wastage dropping down into the machine. They did make it like a little sort of fabricated this little tiny bucket to try and catch them. Must be quite a fun job sometimes working in a CNC place. Let's have a look. That's got to be somewhere near that as. Record this one quickly. So, if you want to know where I'm looking at the top left as the blade's entering the shot. If you look at the top left there, you can see still some tiny little nibbles. And I do believe that's the original. Yeah, it is. They're the ones I've been trying to get rid of, and they're still there ever so slightly. I'm not really putting any pressure, it's just more or less the razor really. I kind of think that'd be enough. I can still see them, but that is enough. So we will move up to the 5000. And we will get doing a bit of polishing now. These are my little titanium spikes that I make. Got loads of them. And you'd be surprised what I end up using them for. All sorts of things. Little pry bars. This one had like a little tiny burr on the point. It feels silky smooth on it. If those chips are still to appear, this stone will show it. I find the 2000 still hides a little bit from me. But I've got a feeling this is just going to be a superb shaver. Because even on the 2000, it was biting my hand, like biting the skin. See by how the water's flowing, it's just running laps lovely. I've got sort of 3 Sheffield makes that I really like. I know I've said it before, like one of them's Joseph Elliot, Mr. George Home, and you can't really ignore Joseph Rogers really. But then those 3 sort of definitely spurred each one of them on, if you know what I mean, just to make better and better stuff. It was just quite amazing. And I find some of Joseph Elliot's stuff just the best. Right, that's probably enough laps to get rid of the 2000. But I'm going to just do a few more, because we did still have that tiny bit of apex sort of niggles. So just give it a little bit more. This razor's that well made that without me having to do any sort of tweaking, torquing, anything, it's going right to the very end, and that is a proper rare thing. Let's have a look at this. Let's have a look all the way along. So this is the non-face side. It's definitely looking a little bit shinier. Yeah, see, I'm happy now. I can't really find these ones. Towards the toe. Look, goes all the way around, right to, well, damn near the very edge. Amazing. It's very bitey all the way along. I think the heel is slightly lacking. Just that little tiny bit, but I think it's good enough, if you know what I mean. Just going to do a few sort of concentrated laps now. Where I'm just rolling it a little bit more. I can't really tell you why, other than I think it helps. But whether it does or not, you know. We'll just quickly check the other side as well before we move on to the 8. Just to make sure I ain't missed nothing. I did check it on when I finished like the 2 the other day. can't beat some rolling X strokes, especially on a large razor, especially when it's got a smile like this. Right, let's have a quick look. Yeah, it's a good side, that, isn't it? Just a little tiny bit on this side on the apex there, but it's damn near the less, not as big as even a strand of hair, so I don't aim for absolute perfect. You're always going to get sort of the odd bit here and there. But it's just looking wonderful. It's so rare to get a razor that does this as well, it really is. Still, it's not perfect on the toe, but I think it's going to be alright. There's a little tiny middle of the screen there. But yeah, on the whole, feels bitey both sides. Few short sort of V's. I am still what I'd call rolling it a little bit. Not rolling it now. See if we changed any of the angles of the serrations a bit. Yeah, they are like, again, sort of more diagonal. Right, so you know they're the 5000. It's not the most easiest thing to tell the difference between the 2 and the 5 in terms of serrations, because you know that's kind of, you know, it's only a toy microscope really, but it just helps. Helps speed things up. A couple of my sort of razor mates, they've got microscopes now as well, and they're liking the little sort of fun stage of it. One of them's got like a little handheld one actually, that's pretty good. Right. Don't feel as silky this one. It's weird, like, because when I flatten these, because I always give generally all of my stones just a little rub with my DMT diaflat plate, just sort of to activate it a bit, and it's just how I keep on top of the flatness of them as well. And the 5000 barely gets any form of what we'd call kind of like a slurry, whereas this 8000 gets quite a bit. And you'd think it'd be the other way around, wouldn't you? You'd think this would be harder. But it definitely sort of activates more to that plate. but whether it's the binding material they use in this different, I don't know. But nearly every time I flatten them, if I'm doing them both sort of together, which I generally do, it's just something I always notice. I've got 3 new Jane hats in the other week. One of them I have to really sort of a bit of a project to save it. It started blowing the surface off because it weren't sealed. It's the first stone that I've had that's sort of done that. It was doing it before I had it, and I've sort of sprayed it a few times with water, and I can see that it's going to do it more if I don't sort it out. So it's on like a really old wooden base, so I've got to try and somehow separate the base from the stone, because whatever glue they've used don't react to heat or anything, so it's not ideal, but I'll get it off. Need to seal the whole thing, salvage what we can from it. There's a working, it's nearly as big as this, and there's a working area kind of down the bottom that I'll just sort of stick with that area really. It's big enough, instead of just grinding it all the way back down to get the whole sort of stone, if you know what I mean. But I think they're all finishing stones. I've shaved off of one of them. I'll show you in a minute, like when I've done this, because I'm going to use them on this razor today. But I've not really explored them too much yet. The one that I did shave off the other day, somebody said to me, oh, it's a bit like a bloodstone one, I think they call it, but it's also, there's also like a tree, they use, I forget what it is now, but you know how they name certain things in Japanese stone. Well, this one's kind of got like bloodstone, but it's also got like the tree circle thing that I forget again. But it's a pretty stone. And then I've got this other one that's quite sort of, well, patternless. But I think they're all razor stones. Yeah, and this blood one, it frosts up quite a bit. It's really is quite a frosty bevel, and it does it quite quick. Yeah, and I shaved off it the other day. I had that Parker 510. Right, well, you generally don't need too many laps on the 8000 if you've done your 5000 decent. It's always the way, all the work's in the low stones, as most of us know. I've got a bit of growth going on, so I need to get this razor done. I need to have a shave, man. I can almost feel when that's nearly ready on this stone, even with the tape on. I bet that'd feel lovely without the tape. It's just, it's such a beautiful razor as it is. This will be the last time it probably gets honed while it's with me. Let's try and get that edge a bit. Yeah, it is the only place this razor is lacking just that tiny bit is the heel. So I'm hoping when I get it through the finishing stones proper, it does pop. Because I've noticed with my own shaving recently, it feels like it's gonna though. I've noticed recently with my own shaving, I've started using my heel more. Like through my own little observations of my own sort of thing going on. Right, let's show you these finishing stones. I'm not going to do it in this video because I've chanced my arm with my lovely wife anyway coming back. Not that it really matters, it's just it's nice to be alone, isn't it, doing this stuff. But this is, yeah, this is like the bloodstone. But look, when it comes more as well as the water gets in it. Especially under the sun. Sadly the sun's so high this time of year, it don't really come in this window. But this circle here, excuse me, it really kind of like pops. So yes, it's a beautiful stone. Both of these stones were like really burnished as well. I don't know who had them before, and they had, I'll go and get it quicker actually because I want to show you. They come with 3 slurry stones, 3 stones, 3 slurry stones. So this one was cracked and they glued it. So what it did is, it's almost like a gummy glue, whatever they used. So I sort of like bored it out into like a little V with my, where's it gone? With my file. And then I've kind of like tried to just bevel this very sort of like, well, the apex of that point, so we don't get no chip off. And it's good to go, man. I assume it's a Mikawa sort of slurry stone, but without a stamp on anything. It's got some markings on it, but I've got a friend who lives in Japan, but he couldn't quite make it out. And then we've got this little tiny one, which is quite hard. Genuinely, that's quite hard, that is. But then look at this little thing. And watch this, look. So I call this my wood slurry stone. I don't know if that's really picking it up, but it just looks like a piece of wood. And it's hard. And I've run laps with these and all of these base stones I've got, and none of them seem to be sort of like antagonising one another. They all seem to work. They all work a little bit different, obviously, kind of thing. But yes, God knows what it is. Like in terms of, is it just an off cut of a stone? Well, chipping. It don't look like it's been cut really. But yeah, come with them 3 little stones. So this, sorry, I'm just very precious, this razor. What way are we? Yeah. So this stone tilts. I find most Japanese stones tilt, and I believe it's so the water runs off. At least that's what I've come to kind of assume. But this one does it a little bit too much for my liking. So I like to do that. There's just, it's trying to find a point where, actually let's do that again. I like to find the point where it balances, obviously. Because otherwise my water runs off a bit too fast. I'm not going to use slurry this time, I'm just going to go run some laps on here. And then we'll run some laps on here. See, this bit's got like this little, and I've not fully tested these stones yet, so it could well be toxic, but because it's a nice wide old stone, I don't feel we need to worry about it at this point. We just kind of stay away from it. So if this stone does what it's done to 2 other stones that I've run laps on it, it frosts up really, really quick. And it's quite a sort of dense sort of frost, if that makes any sense. Is that even the right words or anything? Who knows? I just said I weren't even going to do this, didn't I? But there we go, I'm running laps. Let's see, let's see. Don't matter, does it, if she turns up? So I have tested all these J-nats, and at the very least they don't seem like they're damaging apexes. And like I said, I've shaved off of this one. And the razor is popping hairs quite aggressively, so you'd say that it is a decent finisher. And I did make sure that it was like this stone, because I added a layer of Captain just before I started this, and I could see it was creating sort of like a micro bevel, as some people call them. Years ago, I think it used to be called the axe method as well. Just because that's a way of sharpening an axe, creating a secondary bevel right at the end. If memory serves me right, there is some old YouTube videos of some dude with mainly Japanese razors. Like he's not Japanese, he's a Western dude. See what I mean? Look, when the water gets in it, you still can't really see it, but in the sun, this almost creates, it almost looks like a little tunnel. I've got these pretty cheap, these J-nats, but not the postage. £75 I paid postage for 5 kilos. So it's always something to bear in mind. I couldn't quite believe it. And if it's the equivalent of sending me, in terms of my weight, that's nearly £1,900. Right, let's have the first little look and see what we're doing. Through testing them little slurry stones, one of them white stones really reacts with this. Like, I don't mean nothing because it's just a visual thing, but it really seems to sort of get a lot of it quick. And I've got this coma stone, and when I rub this coma stone on this, it seems to bring quite a bit of the base stone up, because you get a lot of sort of like a browny green sort of paste on the slurry stone. It's always quite interesting how different stones interact with different stones and whatnot. So I've got to go through my slurry stones. I will be just going up to 2000 on a razor and sort of going through my slurry stones, because I've got more or less a full, well, I have got a full set of slurry stones now that are relatively big. I had a load of little ones, you see. A couple of them, I got 3 as gifts, but I've bought some bigger ones now because, oh, who wants me now?